I am Bruno, a software engineer in Seattle, with what most would call the perfect life. For 5 years, I thought my marriage to Amanda was everything I could want. Then I discovered she was having an affair with Jackson, my close friend since college. Instead of confronting her, I chose a different path. I ghosted her completely, vanished without a word. Now she has melted down publicly, and everyone is calling me cruel. But they do not know the whole story. Before I share what really happened, let me know where you are watching from. Hit subscribe if someone you trusted has ever shattered your heart. Trust me, you will want to hear this. Life before I discovered the betrayal was everything I had worked for. At 30, I had built a successful career at a major tech company, made my immigrant parents proud, and married the woman of my dreams. I met Amanda at a tech conference in San Francisco 6 years ago. She was presenting on user experience design, and I was immediately drawn to her confidence as she commanded the room. We connected at the networking event afterward, and something just clicked between us. Her ambition matched mine, and we talked until the venue staff asked us to leave. I still remember her laugh that night, genuine and uninhibited. We exchanged numbers, and despite living in different cities at the time, we made it work. Our romance moved quickly. Weekend flights between Seattle and San Francisco became our norm until Amanda landed a job at my company 6 months later. Within a year, I had proposed on a hike overlooking the Pacific Ocean. The way her eyes lit up when she said yes is something I had permanently etched in my memory. Or so I thought. We built our dream together methodically, purchased a beautiful house in a quiet neighborhood with a yard for the children we planned to have. Spent weekends renovating it together, arguing playfully about paint colors and furniture placement. Every decision felt like we were cementing our future. There were so many perfect moments. The Sunday mornings making pancakes together, the surprise birthday party she threw inviting all my college friends, the way she remembered every anniversary with thoughtful gifts that showed how well she knew me. The pride I felt introducing her to my parents and seeing how she made an effort to learn phrases in their native language to make them feel comfortable. The first subtle shifts happened about 8 months ago. Amanda started working later, often texting that she would miss dinner. Her phone became an extension of her hand, and she guarded it carefully. When she received messages, she would turn away slightly or put the phone face down. At first, I dismissed these changes as work stress. Her department had taken on a major project with tight deadlines. She explained her late nights as necessary team building with colleagues. I trusted her completely. Why would I not? She had never given me reason to doubt before. Jackson entered the picture around this time. He had been my friend since college, but we had drifted apart when he moved to Chicago for work. When his marriage ended in a messy divorce, he returned to Seattle and needed support. I welcomed him back into my life without hesitation. That was my first mistake. I invited him for dinners at our home, helped him find an apartment, and even connected him with job opportunities in my network. I watched him rebuild his life piece by piece. What I did not realize was that he was building it with pieces of mine. Amanda and Jackson seemed to develop a genuine friendship. She offered to help redecorate his new apartment. He started joining her for coffee to discuss design ideas. I encouraged this connection, happy that my wife and best friend got along so well. I even joked about it, calling them my favorite people becoming friends. The bitter irony makes me sick now. The discovery happened on a Tuesday. I was supposed to be in Portland until Thursday for a conference, but the main speaker fell ill and the important sessions were rescheduled. I decided to surprise Amanda by coming home early. When I walked into our house that afternoon, things felt off immediately. 2 wine glasses in the sink. A jacket I did not recognize draped over a chair. Music playing from our bedroom speaker. I stood frozen in the entryway, my mind racing to find innocent explanations. Maybe she had a colleague over to work from home. Perhaps a delivery person had forgotten their jacket. But deep down, I already knew. I moved through the house silently, not announcing my presence. As I approached our shared office, I noticed her laptop open on the desk. Without thinking, I glanced at the screen and saw a message thread open. The preview showed multiple heart emojis and a message that began, "Last night was amazing." My hands trembled as I clicked to expand the conversation. There it was. Hundreds of messages between Amanda and Jackson. Explicit photos. Plans for their meetups. Complaints about me and how boring I had become. Jokes at my expense. The evidence was undeniable. But what truly broke me was discovering how long it had been happening. 6 months. Half a year of lies, right under my nose. There were messages about their first kiss at a company event I had skipped to visit my sick father. References to their first time together in our bed while I was at an overnight hackathon raising money for charity. I scrolled numbly through months of betrayal, each message driving the knife deeper. My wife and my best friend had not only betrayed me, but had been laughing about it for months. They had created an entire relationship built on the foundation of my humiliation. The initial shock left me physically ill. I rushed to the bathroom and threw up until there was nothing left. Then I sat on the cold tile floor trying to process what I had discovered. My mind cycled through confusion, denial, and flashes of rage so intense they frightened me. My first instinct was confrontation. To call them both and scream until my voice gave out. To demand explanations and apologies. To throw their betrayal in their faces and watch them scramble to justify their actions. That is what everyone expects when they discover infidelity, right? The dramatic showdown, the tearful confessions, the broken dishes. But as I sat there, something shifted inside me. Why give them the satisfaction of seeing me break? Why provide them the opportunity to spin their narratives, make excuses, or worse, pretend remorse? They clearly did not feel the messages I read, showed two people who felt entitled to their betrayal. They would only feel sorry they got caught. That is when the idea of ghosting first entered my mind. A complete disappearance. No explanations. No confrontations. No closure for them. Just the perpetual uncertainty of never knowing exactly what I discovered or how I felt. It was not a decision made in haste, but one born from a place of sudden clarity. I spent the next hour making lists, planning my exit with the same methodical approach I used for complex coding projects. I would need a new place to live, secure my finances, and create digital boundaries. I would need to take only what was truly important and leave behind the rest. Most importantly, I would need to time everything perfectly. When Amanda texted that she would be working late again, I replied normally, saying I would leave dinner in the fridge. That final exchange, knowing what I now knew while maintaining the illusion of normalcy, was surreal. I felt like I was watching myself perform in a play detached from the character I portrayed. The next 2 days were a blur of controlled action. First, I secured my finances. I withdrew half our joint savings, an amount that represented my contributions, and opened a new account at a different bank. I redirected my direct deposit for the next paycheck. I gathered important documents, birth certificate, passport, insurance policies, and placed them in a secure location. Finding housing was trickier. I needed somewhere available, immediately furnished, and requiring minimal paperwork. A college acquaintance had a vacant rental property between tenants. When I explained I needed a short-term lease, with complete privacy, he agreed without pressing for details. I paid 3 months up front in cash. The hardest part was deciding what to take. Each object in our home carried memories, some still precious, despite the taint of betrayal. I limited myself to clothes, personal items, irreplaceable mementos from my parents, and my work equipment. Everything else, material possessions, furniture, appliances, I left behind. They were just things, and things could be replaced. Creating digital boundaries took systematic effort. I changed passwords to all my accounts. I drafted emails to my boss explaining I needed to work remotely for personal reasons, to my parents, saying I would explain everything soon but needed space, and to Amanda. This last one I scheduled to send after I had gone, simply stating I knew everything and would not be coming back. No details, no emotions, just the cold statement of fact. The actual moving day happened when Amanda texted she would be at a weekend marketing conference. I knew from the messages I had seen that this was a cover for a getaway with Jackson. The bitter irony that their deception gave me the perfect opportunity for my exit did not escape me. I worked efficiently loading my car with the few boxes I had packed. I took one final walk through the house that had been my home, allowing myself a moment of grief for the life I had believed was real. Then I placed my house key and wedding ring on the kitchen counter, got in my car, and drove away without looking back. Amanda first contacted me that Sunday evening, asking casually when I would be home. I did not respond. Monday morning, my scheduled email delivered the only explanation she would ever get from me. That is when the real flood began. Her messages escalated quickly from confusion to panic to rage. Voicemails, texts, emails, all demanding to know where I was, what I knew, how I knew it. She swung between tearful apologies and angry accusations, claiming I was overreacting or misunderstanding what I had seen. I maintained complete silence. Then came the calls from mutual friends clearly enlisted in her search. "Have you seen Bruno? He has disappeared. Amanda is worried sick. Is he with you?" Each time I replied with a brief text, saying I was safe but needed privacy, and asked them to respect that. Most did not. During those first weeks, I existed in a strange limbo. I worked remotely from my sparsely furnished rental. I spoke only to my boss, and occasionally my parents, who knew something was wrong but respected my request for space. I walked alone on empty beaches or in quiet parks, processing my grief and betrayal in isolation. It was painful but cleansing, like lancing an infected wound. It took 3 weeks for Amanda to escalate to social media. She posted a lengthy emotional account of being suddenly abandoned by her husband without explanation. She painted herself as the confused, heartbroken wife whose spouse had potentially suffered some kind of mental break. She never mentioned Jackson. The post went viral among our social circle. Friends shared it with concerned comments. Former colleagues reached out offering support in finding me. Amanda had effectively crafted a narrative where she was the victim and I was either mentally unstable or cruelly manipulative. The irony was not lost on me. She enlisted mutual friends to track me down. Some became amateur detectives, scanning credit card statements. She still had access to calling hospitals, even driving around Seattle looking for my car. A few actually found my location, but after speaking with me briefly, chose not to reveal it to her. These were the true friends I would later reconnect with. The most manipulative move came when Amanda contacted my parents. She showed up at their house in tears, telling them she was worried about my mental health and implying our marriage had been perfect until my sudden, inexplicable departure. My mother called me immediately after, confused and frightened. It took all my restraint to simply reassure her I was fine, without revealing what Amanda had done. The workplace incident pushed things to a new level. Amanda showed up at my company, creating a scene in the lobby about needing to find her missing husband. Security had to escort her out. My boss, understanding but concerned, suggested I take some formal leave until my personal situation stabilized. Throughout all this, Jackson remained her silent partner, working behind the scenes. Through mutual connections, I learned he was helping craft her victim narrative, suggesting strategies to find me, and comforting her publicly in ways that made him look like a supportive friend rather than her affair partner. The pressure from all sides became intense. My parents, while respecting my privacy, were clearly worried. Weekly calls included gentle suggestions about seeking professional help or considering reconciliation. They did not understand how someone could just walk away from a marriage without attempting to fix it. At work, despite my productivity remaining consistent, colleagues treated me differently during video meetings. There were concerned glances, carefully worded questions about my well-being, and an unspoken sense that I had become unpredictable. My professional reputation, built over years of reliability, was being quietly questioned. Former mutual friends took sides, mostly hers. Many sent messages expressing disappointment in how I had handled things. Some suggested I owed Amanda a face-to-face conversation at minimum. Others simply stopped communicating altogether. Social invitations dried up. My isolation, though partly self-imposed, was reinforced by this collective judgment. Amanda controlled the narrative masterfully. Without my version of events to counter hers, most people accepted her story of abandonment. Her posts gained sympathy, positioning her as resilient despite being victimized. She never directly accused me of anything specific, which made her account seem more credible. She was hurt but taking the high road. Despite this mounting pressure, I maintained my resolve. Each message I ignored, each rumor I refused to address, each judgment I accepted without defense, all strengthened my determination. This was no longer just about the betrayal itself, but about reclaiming my agency in how I responded to it. The situation reached breaking point when Amanda attempted to drain our remaining joint account. Fortunately, I had placed a withdrawal limit that triggered an alert, allowing me to transfer the remaining funds before she could take everything. This financial move shifted something in our dynamic, making her actions more desperate. Then came the public confrontation I had worked so hard to avoid. Somehow, likely through a well-meaning but misguided former friend, Amanda discovered my new address. She arrived, unannounced one evening, Jackson waiting in the car as backup, pounding on my door and demanding I face her. Through the door she cycled through tears, pleading, and accusations. Neighbors emerged to witness the spectacle. I stood silently on the other side, waiting for her to exhaust herself. Eventually, she resorted to threats about destroying my reputation, further revealing private details, even suggesting she would contact all my future employers. Jackson eventually approached, trying to play mediator. Hearing his voice, the friend I had supported through his own divorce, now helping my wife harass me, nearly broke my silence. I came within seconds of throwing open the door and finally unleashing the rage I had contained. Instead, I recorded their threats and called the police. When the officers arrived, Amanda quickly transformed into the concerned wife again, claiming she just needed to know I was safe. The officers, seeing no crime had been committed, simply asked them to leave the property, which they reluctantly did. As they drove away, I caught Jackson glaring back at my apartment with unmistakable hatred. This confrontation clarified something important. I recognized the psychological game being played. They needed my engagement to validate their narrative. My silence denied them the reaction they sought, and it was driving them to increasingly desperate measures. In that moment, I knew my strategy was working, but I also realized I needed to take more active steps to protect myself. After the confrontation at my apartment, I made a strategic decision. Complete silence had served its purpose, but now I needed to selectively break it. I would not give Amanda and Jackson the direct confrontation they wanted, but I would ensure the truth was known to those who mattered. I carefully selected 3 people to share my side with: a senior colleague who had mentored me for years, my closest cousin, who had remained neutral throughout, and one mutual friend who had respected my privacy without judgment. To each I provided screenshots of the messages I had discovered, along with a simple timeline of events and my reasoning for leaving as I did. I asked them to use this information as they saw fit, with only one condition: they would not reveal my current location or contact details. I needed truth to circulate, but still required my protective boundaries. For legal protection, I consulted an attorney who specialized in divorce. She helped me prepare documentation of the affair, the financial transactions following my discovery, and Amanda's escalating behavior. We filed for divorce on grounds of infidelity, with all evidence properly submitted to the court. The papers were served to Amanda at her workplace, a move that ensured she could not create a scene and could not deny receiving them. With my family, I finally shared the complete story during a private dinner. Seeing the evidence transformed their understanding immediately. My mother, who had been gently pushing for reconciliation, now held my hands across the table with tears in her eyes. My father, typically reserved with emotions, expressed regret for doubting my judgment. This reconnection with my family provided healing I had not known I needed. Setting boundaries became my new focus. I drafted a formal cease and desist letter regarding any future attempts to contact me in person or through third parties. I informed my apartment building management and workplace security about potential unwanted visitors. I changed my phone number, creating a new one that only trusted individuals would receive. The tide began to turn within weeks of these actions. The friend I had confided in spoke privately with several others in our social circle, sharing the truth without drama or exaggeration. People began reaching out with apologies for assumptions made and support for my decision. Amanda's carefully crafted image crumbled as information spread. The colleague who had initially helped organize a support group for her quietly distanced herself. Invitations to social gatherings became less frequent for Amanda and Jackson, as hosts became aware of the real situation. At an industry mixer, I cautiously attended. A former mutual friend approached me. He had received a drunk, angry call from Jackson that revealed much more than intended about their relationship timeline and their mockery of me. This friend, disgusted by what he had heard, had cut ties with them both, and wanted me to know I had his support. Amanda attempted damage control with a vague social media post about relationships being complicated and people not always being who they seem. The comments section quickly filled with coded references to her affair and questions about Jackson that she deleted almost immediately. Her narrative was slipping from her control. My professional standing recovered as well. My boss, now fully informed about the situation, became an unexpected ally. When rumors about my stability reached executive level, she defended my work record and professionalism. The leave of absence was canceled, and I returned to the office with quiet support from key teammates. Jackson faced his own consequences. His reputation in our professional circle, already tenuous from his previous divorce, suffered significantly. A project lead rescinded an offer to join their team, citing concerns about trust and judgment. Mutual friends reported he had become bitter, blaming me for turning people against him rather than accepting responsibility. My family not only understood my actions now, but actively supported them. My mother, initially the most troubled by my ghosting approach, became my strongest defender. When Amanda made one final attempt to contact my parents, my mother firmly told her that her betrayal had forfeited any right to explanations or closure from me. The healing process was neither quick nor linear. For months after leaving, I existed in a state of emotional numbness. I went through the motions of daily life work, exercised basic self-care without feeling truly present. The apartment I rented remained minimally furnished, as if I could not commit to creating a real home again. My isolation, though necessary initially, eventually became an obstacle to healing. I recognized this one night, sitting alone on my balcony, realizing I had spoken to no one except coworkers for over 2 weeks. The protective walls I had built were becoming a prison. The first step toward change came when I joined a rock climbing gym. The activity required focus and partnership without demanding personal disclosure. Twice weekly sessions with rotating climbing partners provided social interaction with clear boundaries. No one knew my history, and no one asked why I was reluctant to share personal details. Through one climbing partner, I was invited to a board game group that met monthly. These gatherings became an anchor in my social calendar, offering connection through structured activity. Gradually, I found myself engaging more, even sharing minor details about my work or interests. Small steps toward trust. Professional therapy became another cornerstone of recovery. My therapist helped me understand that while my ghosting approach had been right for my situation, I needed different strategies for moving forward. We worked through the trauma of betrayal, without allowing it to define my view of all relationships. 6 months after leaving, I found myself capable of genuine laughter again. It happened unexpectedly during a work celebration when a colleague made a self-deprecating joke about a coding error. The simple, unguarded moment of humor broke something loose inside me. I realized joy was still accessible, just waiting to be reclaimed. Building a new life meant establishing new patterns. I moved from the temporary rental to a condo I purchased in a different neighborhood. This time, every paint color, every piece of furniture, every decorative choice was solely mine. The space became a physical manifestation of my reclaimed autonomy. New friendships developed naturally but cautiously. I was more discerning now, paying attention to consistency and reciprocity. The people who entered my life in this phase understood boundaries and respected them without taking offense. Quality replaced quantity in my social connections. The divorce finalized with minimal drama, handled primarily through attorneys. The financial settlement was straightforward as I asked for nothing beyond what I had initially taken. My only non-negotiable term was a complete severance of contact. No periodic check-ins, no mutual events, no accidental connections through social media algorithms. A clean, permanent break. The deepest lessons emerged gradually through this journey of rebuilding. I learned that silence, when used intentionally, can be incredibly powerful. Not as a passive-aggressive tactic, but as a clear statement of boundaries. Some situations deserve no further investment of emotional energy. I came to recognize the subtle manipulation tactics that had blinded me previously. The slight distortions of truth, the strategic displays of emotion, the triangulation of mutual friends. These awareness became a protective filter, not a wall of suspicion, allowing me to trust again, but with greater discernment. The concept of self-respect replaced people-pleasing in my value system. I no longer felt obligated to manage others' comfort at the expense of my own integrity. This shift manifested in both personal and professional settings, leading to more authentic relationships and greater confidence in decision-making. I discovered the difference between chosen connections and obligatory ones. The friends who stood by me after learning the truth, the family members who admitted their misjudgments, the new people who accepted me as I was. Now these relationships had depth and substance that many of my previous social ties had lacked. Most importantly, I found peace by reclaiming my personal agency. The betrayal had temporarily robbed me of control over my narrative and my emotional well-being. By choosing my response, setting my boundaries, and rebuilding on my terms, I had taken that control back. This was not about vengeance, but about restoration of self. 1 year after my disappearance, my life bears little resemblance to what it was before. I lead a team at a new company, live in a home that truly reflects me, and maintain relationships with people who demonstrate integrity. I have even begun dating again, slowly and thoughtfully, with honest communication about my past experiences and current boundaries. My relationship with my family has transformed into something healthier than before. We speak more openly now, with greater understanding of each other as complex individuals rather than through the lens of obligation. My parents have expressed pride not just in my professional achievements, but in how I navigated personal crisis with ultimate resilience. The perspective I have gained on relationships and trust is perhaps the most valuable outcome of this painful journey. Trust is not about blind faith, but about consistent alignment between words and actions. Red flags are not to be rationalized but respected as important data. And sometimes the most powerful response to betrayal is not confrontation, but the quiet dignity of walking away. So, what would you do if faced with such a betrayal? Would you confront it head-on, or would you choose a different path? Have you ever had to completely rebuild your life after someone shattered your trust? Share your thoughts in the comments below. If this story resonated with you, please hit the like button and subscribe to hear more real-life experiences. And remember, sometimes the strongest response to betrayal is not explosive anger, but the quiet power of choosing yourself. Thank you for listening to my story, and whatever challenges you face in your relationships, I wish you the courage to honor your own worth above all.